Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comment. Let me know your thoughts on the story. Paul Doyle should be a name that you should be familiar with. He was born and bred in Manchester and he is one of the biggest gangsters. He was also a Salford legend. Now, according to reports, the infamous Manchester gangster is a career criminal. He's had a series of crimes that have spanned 50 years for things such as dealing, theft, GBH and others. He also served time in jail in 2015 after Greater Manchester Police uncovered that Paul Doyle, better known by the name as One Punch Doyle, was behind a drug ring that was making tens of thousands of pounds a day in and around Salford. He then decided to up the ante by trying to import £300 million worth of Class A gear into the UK. Now, Paul Doyle was also part of the Quality Street Gang, whom were elusive but had established a close relationship with the Kray twins when convincing the gangsters to go back to London. Now, Greater Manchester Police called the Quality Street Gang such a force that they were responsible for much of Manchester's crimes during the 1960s, 1970s and 1980s. However, according to the members such as Jimmy Donnelly and professional boxer Jimmy Monaghan, it was a social club where men could wear sharp suits and talk about their issues. Now, during the 70s, Paul Doyle was so feared after people had watched him stand on the doors of the Pips nightclub. Now, these witnesses witnessed a brawl and they saw Paul Doyle strike 5 people who tried to scrap with him, each person just taking one punch before dropping to the ground. Even Greater Manchester Police says that when they had to arrest Paul, they needed more men. They needed a squadron, because not only was Paul Doyle a gangster, he was a dealer and also a Manchester United hooligan, and police says that Paul Doyle had one of the best jabs they had ever seen in a person. Now, while working on the doors, Paul Doyle is said to have had issues with Paul Massey and his firm. Now, Paul Doyle had banned Massey's gang from selling gear in certain parts of Salford, especially in the nightclub scene. Now, things were so bad that when Paul Doyle took over the doors of the Echoes pub and banned Massey and Cole from selling gear, one of the bouncers, Graham Boardman, would be emmed by an associate of Paul Massey, who worked for the Ugly firm. Now, Paul Doyle was not just a hooligan by any means, but he was tough, very tough, and that was due to being one of 7 children, raised by an Irish father and also a Jewish mom. Now, when Paul's parents split, Paul decided to live with his dad. Sadly, because Paul's older brothers were already getting in trouble, for example robbing shops, Paul did the same thing. Now, Paul's dad was rarely at home due to working long hours, and of course, soon Paul would be arrested as a kid, and he would then be taken into the care system, where he was forced to meet like-minded people and then defend himself by using his arms and legs. And at just 12 years old, Paul Doyle was arrested and had to go to hospital. It was at this point that he had his first brawl with police officers. And then, fast forward to 16 years old, Paul Doyle was part of a gang that robbed a warehouse, getting away with £3,500. Now, Paul Doyle was jailed for 16 and a half years. Him and his mates had flooded the north of England with H and coke and other gear worth upward of £300 million. Now, at the time, he was not working and had actually claimed benefits, but somehow he managed to purchase an £800,000 house in Altrincham, Greater Manchester. His mortgage was £3,000 a month. Now, because Paul could not continuously get the money for the mortgage between 2012 and 2014, Paul then secured bricks of H and coke and then went into the wholesale business. He soon caught the attention of Greater Manchester Police as they noticed that there was way more product entering the city. Now, Paul Doyle, who stood at just 5 foot 8 inches, was surveyed by police as Paul travelled up and down the country making drop-offs and picking up money and then restocking the gear. His home was then raided by police in 2014, where they found 5 mobile phones, 2 SIM cards, a list of sums that equated to the gear that was being sold, and also tens of thousands of pounds in the house. Now again, for that, Paul Doyle was jailed for 16 years. Now he served half of that sentence before being released in 2022. Unfortunately, he lost his home and now lives in a council house with his wife. But it's now said that he has reformed and is no longer the gangster or the football hooligan. And his aim now is just to help the younger generation move away from crime. And that has to partly be because If he steps foot out of place, he'll just be recalled back to prison. Stay safe, safe.